Hello, good morning, and welcome to the Good Morning Education Show. I hope you all can hear me. My name is Rotimi Itayo, and we are streaming from Lagos, Nigeria, West Africa to, of course, to Africa and the entire world. It's such a pleasure to be here this morning, and we always spend time to acknowledge everyone who's joined us. So please, if you don't mind, tell us your name and location where you're streaming from, and we would be glad, to to welcome you on the show. The show is one that we have Mondays to Fridays, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. West African time, and we spend some time on the weekend for the weekend special. So we have the Good Morning Education Show on the weekends at a different time, which we have on Saturday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. West African time. Still, we have on Sunday on the weekend special. We have on Sunday. We have 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. West African time. It's always a pleasure to have you here. My name is Rotimi once again. And on the show, we spend some time to look at the issues within and around the world of business and education. And we spend some time to review the headlines. So we have experts and analysts that join us from time to time. And on the show, we have them share their views and their exposure, their thought session, and we also use the opportunity to also share and learn from one another. And on the show, we always ask and give you the room to ask questions. We ask people to, ask their questions, talk about what you need to hear, talk about what you want to listen to. Um, and yes, it's always going to be a great time on the show. Today will not be an exception, and I believe that we're going to have a very interesting conversation today. If you don't mind, just tell us your name and where you're streaming from as we welcome you and welcome others as well on the show. Today, we have an interesting topic, which is a follow up to the conversation we had yesterday. If you joined us yesterday, you would have noticed that we spent some time talking about some things that actually affect the philosophy of work. We spoke about work and play, and it was quite interesting to listen to our analysts, to listen to our colleagues, share their thoughts and perspective on work and how work should be perceived and how work should be pursued. We spent some time also to look at the dynamics between play, and try to educate people on what play actually means, how play can be integrated into work, and it is not meant to be seen as something unserious, neither is it meant to be seen as something unimportant, something that makes us look less professional. But there are sometimes activities and routine methodologies that we apply to work that really makes work, come out in such a way where the recipient of work are impacted positively, and also the one who is initiating work, the one who is driving and delivering work, is also finding it stimulating and exciting, contributing to the success story of the project, initiative, or organization. So yeah, it was a very interesting one. And today we're going to have a follow up to that, and we're going to be talking about work and praise. Work and praise. I'm sure most of you will be eager to find out what's the twist to this today. And it's not really talking about something faith based, it's just talking about us being able to understand what praise means. It's a bit of something that I think is scarce within this space, and also scarce within most organizations, that we sometimes get bogged up and burdened over the dynamics of just running our organization, and we miss out on some of the things that we need to do. But before I just continue on that, let me just take you into some of the headlines, for today, and would spend some time, you know, you know, looking at it as well. So let's spend some time. Now we're going to have the first headline coming from Oxbridge. Um, It's talking about Oxbridge Club plans student sustainable scholarship scheme. That's an interesting one from Oxbridge, sixth form in Lagos, Nigeria, West Africa, and Oxbridge has always proved themselves to be a leading voice within the sector, especially. But let's listen to them. It says the Oxford and the Cambridge Club of Nigeria (OCCN) have elected new executives. Okay, that will stay their fears, just as the new president, Mr. Larry Fatimi called for sustainable scholarship scheme for students seeking to pursue degrees at university. At the 2022 annual general meeting held both virtually and physically in Lagos, Fatimi emphasized building sustainable scholarship fund, and he was soliciting for financial support for members, adding small contribution of £5,000 would go a long way in assisting the students. And it went on and on and on and on and on that. So I think the first thing I'd like to do is to um, apologize because I was thinking about the Oxbridge as a sixth form, but this is not the Oxbridge that is a sixth form um, college, but it's General Oxbridge. So well done to the new president and his advocacy. And let's look at another headline, which you might also find interesting. Um, you know, there's a lot of influence out there, and it's just reasonable to look at it. So from the legit.ng education desk, um, we have an headline that says "Make your parents happy." That's what a popular musician is saying. I have been able to read the headlines, and let me just share some of the comments with you. Um, there's a popular musician who reveals why he went back to school, and his name is Sahid Oshupa. He has revealed that he decided to go back to school to fulfill the wish of his mother, who desired education. You know, going further, he also said on a personal note, he insisted that he also wished to be educated and to prove a point. Especially and specifically, he said that his going back to school will prove that Fuji artists can fit into any setting or organization. You know, that's interesting, really, because it's a good move, and he's trying to fulfill a wish for his mom. Probably, you know, dropping out of school or staying out of school um, might have been an issue for the mom. Of course, any parent will have an issue with that, but it's a role model concept where people are able to say, well, we can give education a chance. And for those who are listening to us today, it's also for us to understand that pretty much no age should be considered as a point of no return where we cannot actually advance ourselves in legitimate ways of learning more, either from formal education or informal education. We should be able to open ourselves to learning. You know, it's said that learning does not end. And if that is the case, then I think we need to give a thumbs up to this artist for doing that. Now we're going to move to another headline, which I believe will interest you. This particular headline says Group launches Africa's formal arts academy. A non-governmental organization, Dreamcatchers Academy, has launched the first free formal and arts academy in Africa. The school, which adopted formal curriculum, also emphasized on art due to psychological benefits and relevance of entertainment. Speaking at the commissioning of the academy and groundbreaking ceremony, founder of the academy, Sheyi Oluyole, said the school was targeted at underprivileged girls who have experienced homelessness, neglect, and economic hardship. She said that they hope to transform the lives of girls through housing opportunities, wellness and welfare resources, and access to quality education. We see the need to provide art education not only because of its psychological benefits and economic empowerment, but also the realization that we are all unique beings. So that's a very good one. Demonstrating selflessness in periods and times like this is no small feat. And you need to appreciate people who take time out, to put their level of pursuit and sacrifice themselves to do things that will better humanity and better the world that we live in. So that's a very good one. Well done to the founder. Well done to our team as well, because I'm sure she's not doing this alone. She has a lot of people who she will be working with as partners, as friends, as associates, as colleagues, as enablers, as vendors. And you need to appreciate when you see things like that. And that's very, very true. Very true. So let's take a step to another headline. And this time around talking about NECO. You um, NECO is in the news. It says here that NECO reschedules National Common Entrance Examination. NECO is rescheduling the National Common Entrance Examination, which has actually been scheduled already previously, you know, to help people who are planning to get into federal unity colleges. The common entrance is also seen as National Common Entrance Examination (NCEE), which is conducted for admission in federal unity colleges from 23rd of April 2022 to the 7th of May. NECO said the examination was rescheduled to give states with low registration of candidates the opportunity to register more candidates for the exam. And the head of Information and Public Relations Division, Aziz Sani, who disclosed this in a statement on Wednesday, said candidates, parents, guardians, and relevant stakeholders are enjoined to take note of the new date for the examination. The registration of candidates will continue till the new date of the exam. Candidates, parents, guardians are advised to download the exam timetable from the council's website. So there you have it. If you have anyone that falls within this category, um, you need to let them know. You know, they get to know about the development from NECO. All right. Then we move into another headline, which speaks about stakeholders decry poor state in education, especially in Kano. Kano State is now in the news, and we are having stakeholders really talking about the deplorable state of education in that state. Um, excuse me. It's no longer news. Worried by the deplorable condition of public primaries and secondary schools in Kano State, concerned stakeholders have advocated a possible solution to restore lost value. And this was a roundtable panel that brought about this conversation. The stakeholders advanced issues around out of school children, the emerging education system, poor infrastructure, and environment for teaching. And then, of course, the call for better management of public education system came at the unveiling of the new project anchored by the Education Strategic Investment and Development Initiative, ESIDI, in collaboration with Kano State Government, supported by Synox Technologies to transform teaching and learning. So this is coming on that conversation, and I know that a lot of people will definitely agree. It's not just limited to Kano; it's a reality that is affecting other states as well. And the final headline before we get into the conversation is for today is failure in parenting, dysfunctional homes responsible for spike in kidnapping. and what this is also something that has been, brought up as we get to conversation on the menace in society. So yeah, that's that. We hope that things will transition and get better. You know. So yes, thank you so much. Now this takes us to the conversation of the day, and we don't plan to waste your time. So we're going to be talking about work and praise. And today we're going to be looking at the correlation of work and praise. How how does that affect us? You know, how how does that affect us? When we talk about work, when we talk about work and praise, how does that affect us? Does that move us in a positive way? How does this play? You know, and like I said, it's a follow up. A lot of us need to recognize that there's the spirit and the soul of work where we must be focused enough, to get about our work and go about our work and do it as we ought to do it, right? Um, we need to get to that point also where work is not considered like a labor room where we're just going to push forth and birth things. Work must be seen from a very, very vast perspective. And if you would agree with me, speaking about work, there are many things that we also need to actually find as a form of completion. You know, So when we say work, I would say work and play. We also go further to say work and praise. That praise is something that I really want to stress much on, and I hope that as we have more um, um, conversations on that, or when we have our analysts, we're able to talk around that. So when you hear the word when you hear the word praise can mean a lot of things. Praise can mean a lot of things. For me, I consider praise to mean the ability and the capacity, to show appreciation, but then not just appreciation, but to also reward performance and productivity. Praise is something that always grows on people. Praise is something that always causes people to be happy and cheerful. Praise is something that makes people desirous, of good things, you know. And when we work with one another, I think that that's an element that we must be conscious of. We are not speaking about flattery, but we are speaking about praise. It's either conditioning someone, based on the capacity or the possibilities or even the potentials that they carry, or based on the assessment of what has been done. So that's what really it's all about. Ugochi, good morning. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Morning, Mr. Rotimi. I'm very well, thank you.
Fantastic. Good to hear your voice, and thank you for joining us on the show. So today we'll be speaking about work and praise. Yesterday we talked about work and play, but now we're talking about work and praise. And I was just sharing in the introduction that praise is a very important thing that we need to integrate into our workplace, because it can be as a result of reward, or it can be as a result of measured or assessed performance, or even sometimes when you recognize potential, you can praise to condition, you know, execution of work, to condition people's atmosphere as well. So let's hear from you. What are your thoughts about praise? What is praise to you, and how does that benefit an average person within the workplace? Over to you, Safety Chief.
Okay, so in this context, praise is about, encouraging good work, complimenting good work, giving feedback, It's not only when people do not do things well that we should speak up. When people do things well, we must encourage them to, because it sort of boosts their morale, lets them know that you actually see them and value the work that they are doing. And so it's important that it is a part of work. We're not asking you to do eye service or only speak up when things are great, but it's really important. People want to feel seen. People want to feel that their work matters and that their work is appreciated. So complimenting individuals who do a great job and who even took initiative, it's a great way of ensuring that they do better next time. Because I've found that sometimes praise is also like motivation to some workers. Sometimes some people don't even need extra salary. All they need is to feel appreciated, that their work matters in the grand scheme of things, that their work is useful. People don't want to feel like they are they are useless, or they are not making an impact. And so it's really important that they are complimented, they are encouraged, so that it boosts their morale and fuels them to do more.
Absolutely. That's I love that. It's praise can serve as some measure of motivation. And the question that I probably want to follow up with will now be, so why do we find it scarce? Why is it that people are not generous with praise? You know, it's as if it's so expensive. People don't want to waste money. You want to share thoughts on
Yeah,
that?
I think that sometimes people don't give praise because they think it's going to get into people's heads, and so they are sort of stingy with praise. But on the other hand, it's actually the opposite. When you appreciate people's work, it makes them want to do better. You know, it's not counterproductive as as people think. And it's very important for people to give. And again, I think again maybe it's also cultural, because growing up, people would do things well and their parents would hardly compliment them. So when people have grown up in environments where you receive praise once in a blue moon, they are also stingy on praise. They don't give it because they were not trained in a culture where it is given easily and freely. So you notice that it even makes people uncomfortable sometimes before they praise others. So except maybe somebody really did something exceptional and over the top, before maybe they can't resist, they have to say something. But it's not that culture of normally, people just giving praise because of experiences growing up. And it's just like it's modeling. It's like the way African parents growing up, they would beat you and sorry to apologize. They just say, will you eat? They now want to give you indirect indirect something, just so that you will not be, and you won't still be angry with them, something like that. I think that apology thing too is also the way praise. Yes. And so now that's why a lot of parents now are, being taught that in parenting, you've got to be intentional about saying sorry to your child, apologizing when you're wrong, because it's doing something to their minds and their character. It's molding them to know that it's the right thing to do when they also find themselves in those situations. So it's the same thing with praise. If we model it to our children, when they do a good job, we praise them. And when they show initiative, even if the end result is not great, the fact that they you I can't remember, there's a way one of my mentors says it, is that you praise the process, not only the end result. So that you appreciate the effort, yes, the effort towards, yes, not only the end result, so that they know that that effort also counts. It's not only when you get it right at the end that it counts. Even the process of trying to get there also counts. Yeah. So those are my thoughts.
Wow, um, that's very powerful. Um, and I think that beyond just talking about being generous with praise, I think that a lot of people have limited the medium with which they express praise. We can actually get very creative and also systemic when it comes to work and praise. I think that one of the things that will make us move beyond ourselves, especially those who find it as a cultural struggle to be very expressive or generous with praise, is being able to just say, what system or medium, while someone might not have a lot of love to give, or someone might feel vulnerable or shy to say, well done, a pat on the back, what are the mediums that we can explore that institutes praise within the workplace?
Maybe having a system that ensures that feedback must be given at the end of each task when it is part of the standard operating procedure, that feedback must be given on each task. So leaders know that they have to say something. Team, whether it's just a team lead or a supervisor or even the bosses themselves, everybody knows that they have to say something. And so it also begins to teach people on how to give feedback correctly. You know, even when somebody has not done something well, how can you give feedback in a way that doesn't break their spirit but encourages them? So yeah, you talk about things like the sandwich approach. You start with the very great thing that they did, then you mention the ones that can be done better, then you end with another great thing that they did, so that that feedback is received. It's not seen as um you are just trying to mess me up, or you are just trying to look down my efforts or something like that. So if it's instituted as part of the standard operating procedures for each activity, people now see that they don't have a choice but to speak about that aspect of life that they were trying to run away. And before you know it, it becomes something that is ingrained, that they become used to doing. That every time after you take an action or do something, you must give feedback. And feedback, it could be it could be praise for what the person has done, or information on how things can be improved next time. I think it's about training. It trains people's muscles for giving feedback. So yes, if it's instituted as part of the process, yes, people begin to get used to doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we also have why organizations have not just monthly performance review, but they also have, like a hangout, team hangout, which indirectly is wired in such a way where you are making sure that the system does not forget to appreciate itself. Practicing that culture amongst themselves so that before they even wait for it coming from top to bottom, they already are in a high energy, positivity is there, their atmosphere is not toxic, they feel part of a team. There are many things that also organizations can explore. Even what the organization says about itself and its team on the outside. You can see some organizations in their advert, they don't put products as predominant messaging in their advert, they put their people. And sometimes they even use their people in their advert just to be able to show, even on billboards. And people that work in such organizations feel that's a praiseworthy thing. It's noteworthy to know that the organization is thinking that this is what they carry, this is the value they have. And they do that. Retreat, team bonding. There are also avenues to, distill that kind of thank you, praise, and reward, for the team, either for the individual or the entire collective. That's a very important part of it. And then sometimes it could be instituted sessions, just like you mentioned, safety chief, where they have access to the overall head or maybe major heads within management team, and they have access to be able to share their thoughts, like you said, feedback, and also just to get that kind of one-on-one. It means a lot to people. And of course, there's the monetary and the fringe benefits, that can happen. Sometimes people get free lunch, people get free meals, sometimes people get, gift vouchers, coupon, those are
Awards.
things. Yes. Yeah, thank you so much. Let's welcome Fin. Good morning. Welcome to the show.
Welcome, Piggy.
Good morning. Good morning. And it's a very beautiful morning.
Fin, yeah,
Welcome.
yeah, yeah, sounding like you stumbled on money that you didn't know was there in your purse or wallet for a long
I stumbled on very cool temperature. Very grateful for that.
time. Yeah, very cool. All right, so we're talking about work and praise this morning, and I'd like to hear your thoughts. I know Fin is a praise advocate, so let's hear from her. Work and praise. Over to you, Fin.
Yeah, when I saw the topic, I was quite excited because this is not something we do all the time. I once heard an employer say to her employees that, why would you expect me to praise you for doing your job? You're being paid to do this, so why should I praise you? And immediately I saw what could be wrong with that organization and why the staff could be demotivated. In education, many times we praise children. Oh, great work, excellent work in class. The once they do some a task and they're graded in assessments, we praise them, we give them awards, and the children are motivated to do more. But you look at looking at the workforce, the teachers, the non-teaching staff, especially the especially nobody seems to realize they're there, and it's very important to give people positive feedback, positive reinforcement, not because they're not being paid to do their work. Yes, they are, but there is an encouragement that comes with it. Why do we? So I asked the question: why do we praise children for for doing what they are asked to do? Why do we praise them for doing their tasks? After all, they've already paid for them to be in school. But there is this effect that recognizing and giving reinforcement for what someone has done, it just helps them to do more. It helps their self-esteem. We have so many people walking around with deflated self-esteem or none at all. They just feel, oh, I'm never good enough because they've never had anybody say to them that they're good enough. There's this young guy that I see in class, and once his colleagues are done with the task, he shuts down. He says, oh, I'm not good enough, because he feels if everybody has been able to do it and I haven't gotten it, then something must be wrong with me. And so at that point, you have to doubly reinforce him and tell him, oh, you're super smart. You can do it. They have done it at their own pace. Now you go at your own pace, and stuff like that. So praise is something that we shouldn't just feel it's for. Sometimes we say, oh, if you praise someone too much, they begin to take it for granted. It's not that. We really should see praise more as something that helps us, that is healthy for everybody. I'm sure there are bosses who, if they receive praise from their staff, that could just be it that makes their day, and they're like, wow, uh, wow, I didn't know anyone was taking notice of this or that, or it just helps to lighten the burden for them. So it's essential for us for our mental health, for maybe just even the feel good factor. Just pass by someone and say, "Oh, excellent! I love the way your workspace looks." Something as simple as that. You don't know how much of a smile it could put on someone's face for the rest of the day. And I think this morning I'm maybe more of an advocate for praise for teams, for staff, rather than praise for kids. I don't know what direction we have started this discussion in, but maybe I'm leaning more towards praise for the adults than praise for the kids, because really they get a lot of that. They don't get enough of it, but they get a lot of that.
Thank you. Um, let's welcome Alera. Alera, good morning, and thank you for joining the show.
Welcome, Alera.
Good morning.
Good morning, Alera.
Yeah. So speaking about what he said, payment for work should not just be the justification for not praising people. I think praising people should actually be integrated in spite of payment. And I like the way you've analyzed it. We praise the children in spite of the school fees they've paid us. Although there'll be other arguments to that, but let's not even go there. So let's talk about another aspect. They're talking about work and praise. And we're looking at it from the angle of reward, right? We know that the workplace can be indeed very demanding, sometimes challenging as well, you know. And we know that a lot of times what people have made provision for is for star performance as well, So how do we treat that where we don't want to water down the effect of just making sure that okay, yes, everybody's praised, but there are people who do the work. There are people who go the way. There are some people who are faffing around in the organization. How do you build that distinct? I want to hear Alero's thoughts on that. How do we ensure in the area of reward? It's just like when people say there will always be a first, there will always be a second. How do we do that in terms of work and praise? Alera, over to you if you're there.
I am here. Um, yeah. So I guess in terms of reward, reward. Of course, that we all know there's your annual bonus for meeting your KPIs and all the rest of that stuff. But outside of that as well, I think I've worked in an organization before where it felt like they almost randomly praised people and gave them rewards with vouchers for doing little tasks. And it could be something as simple as, somebody who stayed a few hours extra when they didn't have to, or worked outside of hours when they didn't have to in order to get something done. That individual may have done it just because they thought to themselves, I just want to get this task done, so it's off of my plate. But to somebody else, it's like that's a big deal because they show, they firstly praise them in the meeting, so openly, so that the rest of the team knows that this person has done this extra work. And if it's a continuous thing, or they see repeated patterns, they will then randomly, well, so seemingly randomly, give them a gift, a voucher. It's not just about that end of year um, bonus, you see. Um, and I think what that does, what it creates, is you either get the people who say to themselves, "Well, I'm not really interested in all the small awards. I just want to make sure that I don't get fired." Or you kind of have a positive competition of like, well, you know what? If Sarah can work a few hours extra to get this task done, there's no harm in me putting in an extra 30 minutes to get the work done. And it does create. This is within the workplace because that's where I came into it. It does. I feel that it does create a more positive work environment. And positive competition amongst adults, and it's not necessarily a conscious thing. It's kind of subconsciously in the back of their minds that they will just work and give the best, and they get praise by getting these tiny rewards and also getting public recognition. I think it's all about positive reinforcement, really, isn't it, praise? So that's what my thought on it, really. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Gochi, do you want to add to that?
Sorry.
I said, Ugochi, do you want to add to that? Safety chick, are you there? Safety chick, are you there? Okay, so still speaking about this work and praise, you know, I think that it will be important for us to also look at um the dynamics of also um how do you put it, causing those who probably you would call underperformers. how do we use praise as an instrument and I mean in
So
practical
I
terms?
can you hear me now?
Oh yes, we can hear you now.
Yes.
Ugochi, oh she's out. Oh, all right. So how do we raise and nurture underperformers using the instrumentality of praise? P, I want you to address that. Now P is out. Alero, I hope you won't be out too.
I'm here. I'm here.
So do you want to address that?
Okay, so underperformance. I mean, that's a tricky one because in every organization, you always find one or two people who like to do the least. And sometimes you even find it in within managers, funny enough. You get the managers that literally just all they do is delegate, like they do the least. Anyway, so it's a tricky one because there may be reasons for that underperformance. Maybe they're just not they literally just there for the salary. Maybe they're just one of those people who know how to quote unquote play the game and strategically look like they're doing work but they're not. But then the people who are doing work know they're not, that those people aren't contributing at all. So in terms of giving them praise, I mean, I think it may be a case, if they know what they're doing, it may be a case of almost giving them praise, like, oh, so you managed to do that. Thank you so much for doing that, even though it may be very small. So the little things that they do manage to do, you still praise them for it, if that makes sense. Because again, praise is about positive reinforcement, and that person who may be an underperformer, maybe it stems from, their youth where they didn't really get much praise, so they just kind of coasted through life and, just did the bare minimum. So in the big workforce, they managed to get the job, but they feel that all they have to do is the bare minimum. So if you praise them for what they do, that will, at least they'll continue doing that. And then they'll be looking for more praise. So then you give them more praise for the new steps that they take. And I think that's the only way I can think of where you are most likely to get, to help them build on their performances, to help them do more work as opposed to less, to help them contribute a bit more, encourage them to contribute more than not at all. Yeah, so that's my take on that.
Fantastic. Welcome, KK. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Hello.
Lushola, welcome as well.
Oh, see Gucci here too.
Good morning. Yes.
Hello.
Good morning. Good morning, Ma. Good morning, Odisha. Welcome.
So we're talking about work and praise today, and Ugochi has given us interesting insights about that. Same with Alero, and Finn was also here as well. So I want to give KK and Olushola opportunity to add their voice to the conversation. Um, work and play was yesterday. Now today is work and praise, and praise in terms of praise as reward, praise as an encouragement and motivation. Let's hear your thoughts, KK. What are your thoughts?
You know what? Let me let Olushola go first because he's always really great on emotional intelligence things and stuff like that. Have to do with mental health and stuff like that. So I would really like to listen to him. Yeah. So let me hand over to our
Thank you. I think praise, when you talk about it, McGregor. So if we can use stick for those who err, I think it is also important to give carrot to those who are doing well. And when you talk about praise, of course, research has backed it up that it helps lift the employee or whoever up. It affirms them, it strengthens them, and of course, which also improves their productivity. Of course, how do I put it now? Should be authentic, not flattery now. Aha. So we should appreciate when people are doing well, we should appreciate it. And in fact, research has shown that when you appreciate people, especially openly, for that which they have done, they are likely going to do more. It's a form of reward now in kind, so to say. We can call it benefit in kind, BIK. Rotimi, we can relate with that. So it's not every time we give them a trophy, we give them money. At times it could just be, oh, thank you, a great thing you've done there. Oh, in fact, you surprised everyone. Oh, what a great employee you are. In fact, your addition to this team has been great. And research has also found that praise helps reduces the incidence of burnout in workplace. So praise is therapeutic. However, why we do that, we shouldn't go into flattery. We should be real, we should be authentic. And gone are the days where, especially if you are old enough, you realize that a whole lot of people lack self-confidence because they say you don't praise children before their face. You understand what I mean? A child has done well, but our parent feels if you tell the child he's doing well, then his head begins to swell up. But when the child does wrong, you quickly rebuke or chastise the child. And at the end of the day, they grow up battling with low self-esteem, low confidence. They can't talk outside. And we are looking up and down. Where did we miss it? This is part of it. And I think praise helps to validate, it strengthens, and I can tell you, when you praise somebody, it comes up psychologically that also affects his health status. I want to stop there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So, KK, we're waiting for you.
So I mean, yeah, I do agree with what Mr. Olushola was saying. I think it's important that we balance both sides of the table really nicely, where we're looking at work and play, or work and praise as it is today. We also need to say, if people are going to be, if there's a logical consequence for doing the wrong things, then there needs to be, again, logical consequences that follow doing the right thing. But I would say that before, what exactly is praise, and how do you attribute praise based on work? And so that for me is performance appraisal, right? So there needs to be performance appraisal structures in the organization, and it needs to be clear, right? Such that it is not subject to bias, and it is not subject to a bias, abuse, and of course, it is not subjective, So I would say that when we're looking at work and praise, and of course, somebody may have mentioned this before, it is important that we set really clear parameters as to what you get to get the praise, right? So your performance appraisal systems needs to be open. People need to understand them. They need to be periodic so that people know what to expect. And then, of course, there's the, off the cuff sort of, oh my goodness, guys, you guys did so well. You know what? Let's all go and do this. Which comes to what we were talking about yesterday, right? Where you have enabling environments to cause people to do more, and then the praise, of course, would be louder. So yeah, money is really not everything for a lot of people. I've found if you do have an enabling environment that causes people to be able to go out there and make more money on their own, then they really want to be recognized for the work that they're doing. They would like their names mentioned in a meeting. They would like their names mentioned in connection to something that they did. They wouldn't like their managers to take all the work. So if, for example, the team leader or a head teacher in a school setting is working with certain teachers And these teachers prefer a solution to a problem. Maybe there's a child who's been very difficult to reach, and a particular teacher says, you know what, I tried this in my classroom, or I read about this. Can we try it? And then they try it and it works. It would be great when talking with the parents for the teacher, the head teacher, in this case, to say, oh, you know what, when we've made this break through, and it was this particular teacher that actually did the research and found it. And what happens is that that teacher gets the accolades, the praise, the recognition for the work that they've done. So I would say that it needs to be clearly stated. It needs to be fair, and of course, the people who deserve their flowers should get their flowers when it is due. Yeah. So that's my contribution to the topic. Back to you, Mr. Rotimi.
Thank you so much for that. You've been able to also bring in the aspect of, where there's a balance, where we have KPIs involved, so people don't feel lost out and ask questions. What's the objective behind this reward? What's the objective behind this praise? So I love that. I love that. And basically, all that we've been able to say today is just to make people out there understand that the workplace should not become a war place. We must begin to understand that while we praise people, while we work and play, which is almost the independent derivative of you getting value for yourself and making creativity come to bear at work, we also need to understand that beyond the recipients and regulators of work must be able to also practice the culture of praise, which most times it's reward driven. And I would like us to just have maybe I'll call that our parting shots as we want to draw the curtain on today's show. I'm going to start with Ugochi, then I'll go to Finn, I'll come to Alero, Olushola, then back to KK. So Ugochi first, parting
Okay.
shot.
So I would say that, yeah, can you hear me, sir?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So I would say that feedback has to be built into the activities that we do so that, people are forced to give feedback. It becomes a culture of giving feedback, and it's going to be an opportunity to teach them how to give feedback, so that, because like we've all said, sometimes praise is not just only about, oh, you have given money. It could be the simple things. It could be the recognition that, oh, among everybody that worked this week, this was our star employee. That's why you go to all those issues and you see star employee. It's just part of the things that boost morale and encourages peak performance. Yes. So it's important not to look down on the little things, and that we must build in praise into each activity that is done at work. Back to you, sir.
All right, thank you. Let's hear from Finn.
Okay, for me, I would say that we should be less critical and more appreciative of things, because when all we do when we walk into a workplace is want to see what has not been done, who is not at their workstation or at their post, we're just looking for something to shout and make noise about. We will find those things. But if we set out deliberately to be appreciative, then it makes it a lot easier for us to give positive reinforcement. It makes it a lot easier for us to create a work environment that is enabling, a work environment that is friendly, and that is better productive. So I'll just say, let's be less critical. Let's be less. Let's look less for mistakes, so that we can be more appreciative of those things that we see around us. Thank you.
All right. So let's have Olushola.
Okay. Well, great submissions there. I will only want to add by saying that praise, like you mentioned KPI, KK made mention of performance evaluation to be part of the work environment, and let there be that atmosphere that your effort will surely be rewarded, whether in cash, in kind, recognition, or whatever. And like we just said, we shouldn't bring the ceiling down when somebody has done wrong or we are looking for fault. Meanwhile, when they have done the right thing, we appear not to see. I think that borders more on employers of labor, on leaders, and those are the aim of affairs. This human is a form of human management skill, and it helps you to get the best out of the people working with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Alero, are you there? Let's have Alero and then we'll end with Kiki. Alero, let's have you. Parting shots.
I think maybe she's not there. So let me just go. So we're not looking at. So I believe that. Oh, okay. I mean, Alera is there now.
Alero, please unmute yourself. Let's have your parting shots. Okay,
Yeah, so
Kiki.
I believe that. Yeah, I believe praise is like Olushola said, it's sort of motivational, right? And there's this book that I just read in a group that I'm in, how to, I think, gain friends and influence people. I can't remember the author of the book right now, but I mean, it's a fabulous book. So
Is it by Dale Carnegie?
Jay Carnegie, yeah.
How to make friends and influence people.
Yes. I mean,
It's a classic.
it's a fabulous book, and I would say that I think I have the PDF, so I'll drop it in the group. It's a really good book, right? And it's important that we hold ourselves to the standards of getting praise. Do not assume hand claps for work that you have not done. I don't think it's correct, right? So when you've done the work, and do the work, do it well, not because you're expecting praise at the end of the day. Do the work because you've been paid to do the work. If the praise comes, it makes you feel really good, right? But when you have not done the work, don't expect the accolades. It's just not going to come, right? So that's how I would, those are my parting words. Yeah. Back to you, Rotimi.
Thank you so much. We've learned a lot today. We've had opportunity to hear different views and different points that will add up to our work experience, either as superior subordinates, colleagues as well. I personally have learned a lot from the conversations, and I'd like to thank you all for being a part of the show today. I'd like to thank Fini for joining. Thank you, Olushola. Thank you, KK. Thank you, Ugochi. Thank you, Alero, for joining us today. And we'll be here tomorrow by God's grace, and we'll be ending the week in style. Our conversation tomorrow is going to be interesting. We're talking about the postal or postage stamp. How do we talk about the journey of consistency? Find out more as you join us tomorrow on the Good Morning Education Show. Before we go, we will say our goodbyes after the count of 3.
Let me greet you happy new month to Bolu.
Thank you.
Happy new month to you. A long time. Just okay. Don't worry. We will chat. We will talk backstage. Let's do our signing out.
And you probably send that to Ice Cream Factory. All right. So at the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. It's always
a great morning on the Good Morning Education Show.
Bye.
Bye.